That's an interesting question. I don't know if it'll create LP churn in of itself. Will the macro environment create LP churn? Like certainly it feels like a lot of institutional LPs are not either kind of waiting and seeing, not really adding new managers. Like they're a little bit more risk averse in the sense that like there's like a little in my experience, which may not be true and may not play out. I don't know what the data says, but like anecdotally, it feels like there's a little bit of like a flight to safety where institutional LPs are like, you know what, we're going to go back to like putting money in with the big brand name funds because it's safe. And like, you know, if it's a fund of funds, like their LP is like that. If it's an endowment fund, their board likes that. Like if it's a foundation, the board likes it. So everyone, they all kind of answer to someone. And, you know, it feels, it's like the old adage of like, you don't get fired for buying IBM. Like, you know, I think there's a little bit of that flight to safety, which means people are more risk averse, less likely to invest in emerging managers because it's in their mind, it's probably harder to pick, even though there's a lot of data around the fact that there's like more alpha to be had with the small emerging managers. It's just harder to pick which one is which. So anyway, it feels like there's some pullback from LPs. I don't think it's solely based on what happened with SVB. I think that was probably a little bit of, it was definitely a shock to the system, but it wasn't the only factor in my opinion. And yeah, that weekend was certainly stressful. Like we had a lot of companies who had money in SVB. We had gotten our money out of SVB, but yeah, I mean, it was a stressful weekend for a lot of people. And what's been interesting is like who's going to fill the void that they had, because we as a fund, like I've been trying to get our fund accounts open with all the big banks, and like they don't want smaller funds, right? Like you have to have a certain amount of AUM to bank on the fund side, and so that's been challenging to like, you know, you have on one side big LPs who want the money in a big bank account, but the big banks don't want your fund account. So a lot of emerging managers are kind of stuck in this, like, you know, they have to use a different bank that maybe some LPs view as a little bit riskier. But it's been an interesting few weeks or month, however long it was, but it's been interesting.